From the climate-controlled rooms we sleep in to the global supply chains delivering food, we live inside a system designed for total, frictionless access. You can summon a car, a meal, or a conversation with a stranger across the planet with the flicker of a screen. We hold access to infinite streaming libraries, millions of songs, and instantaneous global connectivity in our pockets. Every point of resistance has been meticulously engineered out of daily life. By every historical metric, longevity, material wealth, individual liberty, we outstrip any previous civilization in scale and resources. Yet self-reported metrics of subjective well-being and happiness have stubbornly flatlined. The assumption was that endless material abundance and digital freedom would naturally result in psychological fulfillment. The data tells a different story. This chart tracks global self-reported metrics of clinical anxiety, burnout, and profound loneliness over the last 2 decades. While our technological capabilities have skyrocketed, so has our sense of isolation. Over half of adults in developed nations report feeling left out or chronically lonely. When we feel this exhaustion, our immediate instinct is to blame ourselves. We assume we failed to optimize our morning routine, didn't meditate enough, or simply lack discipline. But the late 19th century sociologist Emil Durkheim saw this coming. He coined the term anomie, a state of intense rootlessness and moral confusion. Durkheim argued that when society rapidly shifts and traditional social bonds dissolve, individuals are left socially adrift, deprived of structures that once gave life meaning. This pervasive sense of emptiness is a systemic feature of our social architecture. It is the predictable outcome of how our world is currently built. To understand how we arrived here, we look at the physical ground we stand on. For most of history, humans lived in dense communal environments. Today, we have actively engineered those out of existence in favor of private, walled-off residential grids. Sociologist Ray Oldenburg identified the home as our first place and work as our second place. Crucially, he argued we desperately need third places, neutral, unpretentious physical gathering spots like local cafes, parks, and libraries. Inside these spaces, social hierarchies dissolved. It didn't matter what your job title was, you were simply a regular. These casual interactions built what sociologists call bridging social capital, the informal trust that binds a community together. Over the last several decades, economic zoning and suburban sprawl replaced those communal hubs with car-dependent infrastructure. Gathering places vanished, swapped out for massive multi-car garages, private fenced-in backyards, and privatized home entertainment systems. The internet offered itself as a replacement for these lost physical hubs. But scrolling through a digital feed provides only a hyper-real substitute for connection. Instead of curing our isolation through physical presence, it often just broadcasts our loneliness to a wider audience. Without physical architecture designed to encourage spontaneous connection, you are left to carry the heavy burden of building community completely alone. Stripped of physical community, the human brain still craves meaning. We inevitably attempt to fill that void through private consumption and the endless curation of our personal lifestyles. We fall into a psychological trap known as the hedonic treadmill. Your brain rapidly normalizes any new acquisition, promotion, or achievement. The initial thrill of a purchase fades, dropping you right back to your previous baseline of dissatisfaction, hungry for the next upgrade. We assume maximizing options maximizes happiness. If a few options are good, infinite must be better. This is the paradox of choice. Facing thousands of streams, profiles, or careers skyrockets cognitive effort, creating intense decision fatigue and haunting post-choice regret over discarded options. This overwhelming architecture of choice makes it incredibly difficult to truly commit. When a supposedly superior option is always one swipe or click away, relationships, jobs, and daily decisions all feel terrifyingly temporary. Engineering a society around an infinite buffet of psychological choices actively prevents humans from securing deep, lasting fulfillment. This illusion of limitless choice extends far beyond what we consume. It entirely dictates how we work. In the industrial era, we lived in what philosophers call a disciplinary society. An external boss enforced strict rules about what a worker should do. While rigid and exploitative, the boundary between the worker and the company was perfectly clear. Today, philosopher Byung-Chul Han observes that we have transitioned into an achievement society. The rules of external authority have been replaced by the toxic positivity of what an individual can do. The modern gig economy and hustle culture operate on this exact ideology. You are told to be the entrepreneur of yourself, turning your hobbies into side hustles and optimizing every waking hour for maximum productivity. The tragedy here is that the external boss hasn't vanished. They've been internalized. You become both the master and the slave, voluntarily exploiting yourself to meet shifting algorithmic metrics, often experiencing intense shame when you fail to maximize your output. This compulsive freedom inevitably generates a burnout society, a state of systemic exhaustion successfully disguised as self-actualization. If you are exhausted by the constant pressure to achieve and lonely in a world of infinite digital connections, your reaction is a completely logical response to a broken system. Pushing back starts with cognitive limitation. Behavioral psychologists suggest adopting the mindset of a satisficer, someone who establishes criteria and deliberately accepts an option that is good enough. You consciously bypass the exhausting task of maximizing every single choice. Beyond our own minds, we have to reclaim our geography. Relying on digital echo chambers will not rebuild civic trust. We have to actively fund, protect, and physically occupy local spaces, parks, libraries, and cafes, where casual, unoptimized human interaction can actually occur. Finally, we must stop viewing rest as a failure of productivity. Deep boredom and quiet contemplation are vital acts of resistance against a culture that demands constant mental output. Real freedom lives within the deliberate limits we set and the physical communities we choose to inhabit.